All right. Good morning, everyone. I don't know who's going to watch this one. This is not in the tech sector. We're actually going back into the atmospheric sciences. Well, I am going to probably say some words that will trigger YouTube's putting that blue sticker on this video, but let's see if I can not trigger it. Well, some of the things I'm going to read will probably trigger that. So let's see what happens. Let me, you guys know the routine. Let me make sure this is broadcasting to YouTube. As per usual, I wanted to start this at 9:30. I set the stream up last night, but I'm taking a short car ride today, and there were a few things I wanted to get ready before I started doing this. Scientists usually end up multitasking in some way for their work duties and also in their personal lives. So everyone, you could see that I'm rocking the periodic table today. We're going to do a little bit of biology and chemistry 101 review, and then I'm going to talk to you all about the Carbon Dioxide Coalition. There are going to be a few laughs probably towards the back end. We're going to take a little quiz, and there are going to be some laughs involved, and I will tell you why, especially when we take the quiz. So let's see. Yeah, so this month we did some automation in artificial intelligence to follow up. Let me say that again. This month we did some automation and some artificial intelligence to follow up on my discussion with Dr. Patrick Dix. Then Dr. Tiasan Johnson asked me to delve into the area of synthetic cannabis. I'm being careful with my words there because certain words trigger YouTube to slap age restrictions and all kinds of things on your videos. And now we're going to go back into the atmospheric sciences space. I'm avoiding saying the C word to see how long I can prevent from YouTube slapping that blue sticker on this video. Okay, let me share this over on my original Big Discussions 76 channel, and then I will jump into today's topic of discussion. I hope everyone's having a good Saturday thus far and a good weekend thus far. It is a chilly 30 to 40 degree day here in the DMV. I can hear the wind gusting out there. There was concern for a snowstorm last night in this area. I think there was a band coming through, and there might be another one coming, but it's a chilly day here in the DMV, which is not unusual for this time of month. I think in Buffalo, where I'm from, they're still experiencing the winter weather there. So create post live on I got a bump in new subs over there. So some of those folks might want to hear this. Science isn't necessarily the most popular topic, but once you start to understand it and understand the arguments, it's actually pretty fun. It can be pretty fun. Okay, so I'm going to play the intro, and then we will get started. I always say this, I don't intend to go long, but once I get into a flow, sometimes it's hard to stop. If anyone wants to make a donation to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are here. If you are so moved by something I say today. All right, I'm going to play my short intro, and then I will jump in. What is the Carbon Dioxide Coalition, and what do they do?
So Anwar, I see you have the periodic tables on your chest.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that all about? Why are you walking around with a chemistry chart on your chest?
Well, Cheryl, so this channel is a STEM channel. So when I was conceiving of it and figuring out how to grow it, I figured I should have some T-shirts to go with it. So
Okay.
the periodic table is
Is
critical to
appropriate.
most of the
Okay.
scientific fields. Welcome to Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. Science and technology are all around us all of the time, and there are always science and technology stories to tell. All right, there are always science and technology stories to tell. That was from my discussion with Mrs. Cheryl Pons, and she has a business in the electric cars sector, the EV sector. And in that little snippet there towards the end, she had a question for me. And I was wearing one of my periodic table T-shirts during that discussion. So she wondered, why are you wearing a periodic table T-shirt? So today I'm wearing another one. And so this discussion, what is the CO2 Coalition, the Carbon Dioxide Coalition, and what do they do? This week I was thinking, okay, what am I going to talk about on my STEM channel this week? And I scratched my head, and I have an email address or an email account where I just collect articles and readings. And I did sign up for their mailing list probably about a half a year ago. And I have so much going on. I don't have time to read everything, but I scrolled through that inbox and I saw their newsletter, and I said, oh, okay, that looks interesting. Let me go over. Let me talk about the Carbon Dioxide Coalition and what they are, and why they're doing what they're doing. Because I think a lot of people, I didn't know that this group was here. It turns out they've been in existence since 2015. But as I discussed with Dr. Tia-san Johnson over on my original channel on Monday, information is controlled, messaging is controlled, and things that are shared with the general public, they're tightly controlled so that, well, things like voting can be controlled, so that things like spending patterns and lifestyles and sentiments on issues, so that those things can be controlled. But I believe in asking questions. I believe in gathering information, and I believe in being as personally educated as possible, so that people can't control me and people can't dictate what I think and how I feel. Well, what I think about certain situations and scenarios. And that's one of the concerns about science now, is that it's losing that objectivity. So that's where this came from. Okay. Now, so those who have been following me over here know that I took an interest in the climate debate. It's a debate, and it's a very, very polarizing and explosive one. People will fight you, just like whether or not you're a Democrat or a Republican or a Trump supporter or whatever, whether or not you're pro-choice or pro-life. Just like that, people will fight you over this climate business. I said the word, so YouTube's probably going to slap the blue sticker on this video. So about 2 years ago, I basically, because I gave the opinion that I was undecided on this climate business, someone confronted me and asked me in a very, very aggressive way, do you believe in science? Okay. So ever since then, I have taken an interest in this climate science arena. And I've seen personally that it's, again, people will fight you over this and what you believe and what you don't believe and what you think and what you don't think. And I found numerous things. So first of all, it's a very, very contentious arena. And it's just like Democrats and Republicans, red team, blue team. it consists of basically two tribes. One is the climate alarmists, and the other is the climate deniers. So the climate alarmists, those are your Al Gores and your Michael E. Manns. These are the people who insist that the world is that man is killing the world. But then there's another community of scientists who are considered the climate quote unquote deniers. Okay, who say, you know what, things aren't as bad as the other side is saying, and the science doesn't show that it's as bad as they say it is. And so there are two tribes here. So me being confronted about whether or not I believe in science, because I have science training in pharmacology, gave rise to this slide. Please smash that like button if you haven't. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. So that all gave rise to this slide. Do you believe in science? So science is asking why. Science is considering alternative hypotheses. Science is flexibility of mind. Science is in part generating hard data. Science is not believing things blindly. Science is the peer review of data. And science is thinking critically and questioning things. Not just believing things because someone's browbeating you and bullying you into believing what they believe or what they want you to believe, but it's actually stopping and thinking and saying, okay, does this make sense? The story you're telling me, this thing you want me to believe, does this make sense? Okay, that's science. Okay, so if someone ever tries to bully you or strong arm you into believing what they believe as a scientist, you have to stop and think and say, okay, does this make sense based upon what's known? And I'll probably revisit this theme throughout this discussion. For those of you who are watching, please smash that like button. Let me know what you think, and if you have questions there in the chat. All right, so before I jump into the Carbon Dioxide Coalition, I'm going to do a brief little Biology 101 refresher. Okay, so I'm going to start this with the question, how bad, this is carbon dioxide, how bad is carbon dioxide? How dangerous is this? What is it? What's its biological function? Is there a danger atmospherically and on our planet to having too much of this stuff floating around? How bad is carbon dioxide? Okay, carbon dioxide, let me put this up again. I see people coming in, please smash that like button. The elements that comprise carbon dioxide are carbon and oxygen. Okay, carbon can bond. We're gonna do a little bit of chemistry here, hence the periodic table. Carbon can bond 4 other atoms. It has 4 valence electrons. Oxygen has 2. So that's where that double bond comes from. So what is the significance of carbon dioxide? Please smash that like button if you haven't. If you guys have questions or comments or thoughts, any thoughts or questions in the chat will be helpful for this talk. And we're going to do a fun little quiz. For those of you who hang around, we're going to do a fun little quiz at the end. So carbon dioxide. How bad is carbon dioxide? What is the biological function of carbon dioxide? Well, carbon dioxide is actually a critical molecule for life on the planet Earth as we know it. Okay, so pretty much every life form, every organic life form on the planet Earth would die off without carbon dioxide. All right. By the way, the Carbon Dioxide Coalition did not put me up to this talk. This is not in conjunction with them. I'm an independent content creator, so I thought of all of this in my mind. So life depends on carbon dioxide. Back at Johnson C. Smith University, my HBCU, the late Dr. Joseph Vail Jr. and the other members of the Natural Sciences Department in the mid-1990s, but Dr. Vail in particular drove home this reaction here, or these two reactions, photosynthesis and respiration. So plant life, plants, chlorophyll containing organisms, trees, grass, our agricultural crops, they all contain a pigment called chlorophyll. They all contain chloroplasts. Their cells contain chloroplasts, and they all contain the pigment chlorophyll, and that allows them to harvest sunlight and to take carbon dioxide and water to create glucose. Okay, that and they generate glucose and oxygen, right? So glucose and oxygen, those are the reactants for cellular respiration. Okay, so these are two processes that complement one another. So photosynthesis and respiration. The reactants for photosynthesis are carbon dioxide and water and light energy. And then the reactants for cellular respiration are oxygen and glucose. And the byproduct is chemical energy. So I'm just making this connection here. You see that there's light energy going in on the photosynthesis side, and then on the respiration side, the chemical energy is coming out. The chemical energy is what we use as living things for life. And carbon dioxide is central in that whole interaction. So carbon dioxide is necessary for life. And we as human beings, dogs, those of you who are pet owners, cats, the squirrels running around outside, the insects, the avians, the aquatic life, everything living is generating carbon dioxide. The plants are generating carbon dioxide. Okay, the question is there a point where there's too much? Is too much of this at some point harmful for the planet? Okay, carbon dioxide. We're gonna continue down this biology 101 road really quickly to drive home why, well, we all need carbon dioxide. Well, and how critical it is for those two reactions to continue. Without those two reactions, all life on the planet would probably die off. Well, it would die off. The chemical energy here. What is the chemical energy? I'm going to be very brief here. Plants, the biosphere. The biosphere is made up of all kinds of ecosystems. Let me see if I have that slide ready. Please smash that like button if you haven't. I should have had this handy. But I did not, unfortunately. So I have to search for it right now. If any of you all have thoughts on this, please let me know. Ecology. I think this slide is entitled Ecology. I hope everyone's having a good weekend thus far. There it is, ecology. And ecology, for those of you who don't know, that's the study of how living things live together in communities and how populations are regulated and how populations organize and live together. So if you look at most ecology webs on this planet, we're talking about living things. Usually at the bottom, are the plants. Okay, the plants which use carbon dioxide as a source to create glucose. Okay, so and then everything else basically it starts there, and then everything else on that food chain is dependent upon that plant life conducting or undergoing the process of photosynthesis. So that's critical for everything. All right. What the plants make during photosynthesis is this glucose. Okay. There are simple sugars and there are complex sugars. This is a simple sugar. This is glucose. This is the simplest sugar, C6H12O6. I have that memorized from Dr. Fail and Johnson C. Smith University. Black Dub 21, thank you for stopping through. Please smash that like button, Black Dub. I hope you stick around. We're going to do a fun quiz at the end of this. And there's a method to my madness. There's a reason I'm doing this. So glucose, why do we need glucose? Glucose is the ATP. So this is the chemical energy. So the plants make the glucose, and during the cellular respiration, our cells, our animal cells, basically break that glucose down to adenosine triphosphate. And this is the basic energy source that powers all of our animal cells, because our bodies are made up of animal cells, right? And all the processes in our cells are dependent upon adenosine triphosphate, ATP. And our bodies are able to make that from glucose. And that glucose is generated by plant life, which use carbon dioxide as a reactant. So just very, very briefly, that glucose, it goes through in our cells a process called glycolysis in the cytosol. You take one glucose molecule, you generate two pyruvates, and those pyruvates go into the tricarboxylic acid cycle, which I thought that I had queued up here. I should have had it queued up here. Dr. Dunbar is slipping. The citric acid cycle. That's what I named it. The citric acid cycle. There it is. Citric acid. So you're thinking about vitamins, oranges, lemons. Delete that overlay. All right, I had too many files in there. That happens sometimes. Citric acid cycle. Everyone, please smash that like button if you haven't. All right, so you start with glucose, right? And you go through that. Goes into the process of glycolysis. There's some ATP used there, and then there's some ATP generated. You generate two pyruvates, and those pyruvates go into the citric acid cycle there, and a whole lot of ATP is generated there. My mind is thinking about 36. I think the net total is 36. But the point is, the starting material for a lot of this, for this process, is carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is necessary for our lives. I'm generating carbon dioxide right now. You all out there in viewer land, you're generating carbon dioxide right now. The question is, how dangerous is this for the world at large if too much of it is generated? All right. Now, I talked to you all about how volatile and polarizing the climate debate is. We just did a bit of a refresher for Biology 101 and how critical carbon dioxide is for all life. Okay, and then I basically set up the question: how dangerous is this gas, this necessary gas for plants? It's plant food, and then it's also necessary for our lives in terms of the foods as mammals and carnivores and omnivores that we eat. So in investigating this climate debate, because it's a debate, one of the channels I started watching was the Tom Nelson podcast. Okay, I would encourage all my viewers to subscribe to that and watch that. It's below in the description box. It's a science channel. It's probably more on the climate denier side, but it gets you to think. And I think that one of the things I thought about leading up to this stream was that I think part of my role as a Black scientist is to try to educate my people on what's going on, right? Especially with an election coming up, it's important that you understand what's going on, what's being talked about, what's being debated, and why. It's important to understand the stakes, because we're oftentimes, as Black people, we're oftentimes herded towards focusing on certain things while not focusing on other things. But this is something that candidates will talk about, and it's important to understand what they're talking about and why, and to ask yourselves the questions: is this as bad as this person is saying it is? And is there a real crisis going on? Or is this something that's being manufactured to herd people in certain directions? So I was watching the Tom Nelson podcast, and he had a woman on named Sharon Camp, and she mentioned the Carbon Dioxide Coalition. So it turns out there was a coalition created to talk about the positives and the benefits of carbon dioxide, and also to show data to level center, maybe that's the wrong term, but to counteract the other side that says that carbon dioxide is killing us and is killing everybody. So I did some searching myself to say, wow, there's a carbon dioxide coalition. Let me see what they're talking about. Let me see who's a part of this coalition, and let me take a look and to see what they're doing. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that for the duration of this live stream. So I have it queued up right here. I'm going to sprint through this, and then I'm going to wrap the stream up because I have some other things to do today. So what is the Carbon Dioxide Coalition? And if I recall correctly, carbon dioxide has a molecular weight of 44 grams per mole. That just came to me off the top of my head. This is the website for the Carbon Dioxide Coalition. All right. Again, they did not ask me to do this. I thought this would be a fun topic to go over here on my channel. So the Carbon Dioxide Coalition, providing the facts about CO2, carbon dioxide, and climate change. The Carbon Dioxide Coalition is the nation's leading organization providing facts, resources, and information about the vital role carbon dioxide plays in our environment. So this is a different spin on the molecule. What we're being told in the mainstream media is how dangerous carbon dioxide is and how bad carbon dioxide is. But this is a group whose mission is to talk about how good carbon dioxide is. So it's a different take on it. Let's see. I'm going to go to the about. Okay, there you have featured in. Okay, I know right there that Fox News logo there, that's going to make a lot of people turn and run. But there are also some other groups there who endorse this group. Real Clear Energy, Newsmax, American Thinker, The Washington Times, Britain's News Channel, and the Detroit News. Okay, so about us. I'm just going to read this briefly. The Carbon Dioxide Coalition was established in 2015 as a nonpartisan. That means not aligned with either political party, neither Democrat nor Republican. All right. So I'm going to start that again. The coalition, the Carbon Dioxide Coalition, was established in 2015 as a nonpartisan educational foundation operating under Section 501c3 of the IRS Code for the purpose of educating thought leaders, policymakers, and the public about the important contribution made by carbon dioxide to our lives and the economy. The coalition seeks to engage in an informed and dispassionate discussion of climate change, humans' role in the climate system, the limitations of climate models, and the consequences of mandated reductions in carbon dioxide emissions. In carrying out our mission, we seek to strengthen the understanding of the role of science and the scientific process in addressing complex public policy issues like climate change. Science produces empirical, measurable, objective facts and provides a means of testing hypotheses that can be replicated and potentially disproven. Approaches to policy that do not adhere to the scientific process risk grave damage to the economy and to science. Okay? I think the biggest thing there, one of the biggest things there is this was established as a nonpartisan educational foundation. All right? So I'm going to sprint through this. Please let me know if you have any thoughts there in the chat and what those thoughts are. A lot of people don't give this a second thought. A lot of people don't know that this exists, particularly in my community. This is the furthest thing from people's minds. All right. So who are the members of this? I was going over this last night at dinner. I'm just going to sprint through some of this. These are names that I'm sure many people have never even heard of. Okay. Because we're in the community I come from, we're thinking about race. We're thinking about Usher and Alicia Keys. We're thinking about, well, all kinds of things. So I just read this language here about the coalition. So leadership. So I'm going to sprint through some of this. These are the individuals who are the leaders of this group. Roger Cohen, PhD physics. William Happer, PhD. Rodney W. Nichols. I'm not going to read. This link is below in the description box in case you all want to do some further investigating yourself. Jan Breslow, MD. John Closter, PhD physics. Bruce Everett, PhD. So you see there are a lot of PhDs here. Gordon Folks, PhD. William Happer, PhD. Hugh Kendrick, PhD. Patrick Moore. I've watched some of his talks. Rafaela Nascimento, PhD. Norman Rogers. Jeffrey Salmon, PhD, World Politics. Gregory Wrightstone. He's a Master's of Science in Geology. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to read a few more of these. D. Weston Allen, MD. Jeffrey Allen, BS Geology. So you see you have people from multiple disciplines here: physics, medicine, geology. But there are quite a few physicists here. This gentleman, Robert Bauman, has a mechanical engineering background. Joseph Bender, DVM. I think that's a doctor of veterinary medicine. Okay. This person, Matt Boyce, he's a doctor of geology. Fritz Bunning, he has a BS in computer science. Sharon Camp. This is the woman I saw initially on the Tom Nelson podcast. She has a PhD in analytical chemistry, and she is very concerned about the educational side. So what are young people learning in K through 12? And if you find that podcast where Tom Nelson talks to her, what you see is that the messaging from K through 12 is very, very tightly controlled. And it's basically tailored towards the messaging that carbon dioxide is a bad gas and that it's going to kill, too much of it will kill life on the planet. Okay. So that's where I first saw her, and she was my first introduction to this. So notice that a PhD in analytical chemistry. So you have people here from multiple backgrounds. Okay, so those are individuals who are involved in this effort. Now, let's run through. So there's a tab here that says carbon dioxide facts. Okay, carbon dioxide facts. I thought this was interesting. I'm going to sprint through this as well. So climate facts. So explore our extensive library of facts and detailed data to empower yourself with knowledge, educate friends and family, and join us in our love for carbon dioxide. All right. So I'm not going to, you guys can look at these if you want. I'm not going to click on all these. So this one says the 140 million year trend of dangerously decreasing carbon dioxide. Fact number one. Fact number two, the warming effect of each molecule of carbon dioxide declines as its concentration increases. Okay. Fact number three, first and foremost, carbon dioxide is plant food. I'll do a few more. Fact number four, in the last 4 glacial advances, the carbon dioxide level was dangerously low. All right. Fact number 5, carbon dioxide emissions began accelerating in the mid 20th century. Okay. Now that's a critical argument here. And that's that, is man making the carbon dioxide go up, or is the earth making the carbon dioxide levels fluctuate on their own? I'll do fact number 6 too. So fact number 6, our current geological period, parentheses quaternary, has the lowest average carbon dioxide levels in the last 600 million years. Okay, this link is below in the description box in case anyone wants to read it. I encourage you to go, have the flexibility of mind, go take a look, peruse through. And what I like so far that I'm seeing is that they're showing data, they're showing charts, they're showing figures that you can look at and to understand whether or not the claims are accurate with what the science is saying. So this is very data driven, not feelings driven, not anecdote driven, but what they're showing thus far seems to be very, very data driven. Okay. All right. So I would encourage everyone to go take a look there. This link is below in the description box. And I'm going to show one other thing here, and then I'm going to read through one of their newsletters because I signed up for one of their newsletters, and I took a look at one of their newsletters for the first time this week. Again, I have so much information that in my mailbox and just in general that I don't have time to read everything. Wow, folks are coming in right now. Please smash that like button. I wonder if a certain somebody shared this. Please smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. We're going to do a short quiz, a fun quiz at the end. And I'm hoping some of you will participate because it's going to challenge some of the things that were hit with normally. And I want to get everybody to think. That's the whole point of this. This is a thinking exercise on this channel. I want us to think. Okay, so there is also a learning center, and Sharon Camp talked about this on the is it the Dr. Tom Nelson on the Tom Nelson podcast. So there is also a learning center here. Okay, and I was looking at this last night. They're going for diversity. Okay, let me close this window because it opened it in another window. They are certainly going for diversity. There is an African American gentleman there with the dreadlocks, and this is on. You can get here from the main site, so they have books, videos, lesson plans, activities, and fun facts. Okay, so this is a site not donated, dedicated to educating people about carbon dioxide, but from a different angle than what we're normally taught about it. Okay. And again, the Carbon Dioxide Coalition did not ask me to do this. I thought it would be interesting to do a stream on this. Okay, so there's a newsletter that you can sign up for, and they're putting out some interesting topics. I'm going to read one, and then we'll do the quiz, and then I'll wrap this up. We'll walk through a few questions on the quiz. Okay, so this, again, as a Black scientist, I think part of my responsibility is to help educate my people on what's going on. And there are people in my community who don't know anything about any of this. You know, when election time comes around, it's racism, voting rights. We got to get this guy out of office, red team, blue team. But what are the actual issues? What are the true intentions of these policies? Who are the people involved? So this is one of their newsletters. And this one reads, Man versus Scientific Method. Okay, so Michael Mann on trial. Okay, so for those people who are saying, okay, Dr. Dunbar is in bed with the Carbon Dioxide Coalition, I have a copy of Michael E. Mann's book. All right, this book is called Our Fragile Moment. Shout out to Ron Wills. Ron Wills is an advocate of learning both sides of an argument. Okay, so Michael Mann would fall under the climate alarmist tent. All right, so he's in complete opposition to the Carbon Dioxide Coalition. So I bought this book. I want to understand both sides of the argument. So I've started reading through this book for those of you watching and saying Dr. Dunbar is in bed with the Carbon Dioxide Coalition. Okay, so let's go back to their newsletter. Please smash that like button if you haven't. When you start learning about this debate, the quote unquote debate, Michael Mann's name is one of the names that will come up, along with, you'll start hearing about Al Gore and Michael Mann and Dr. John Christie. I've talked about Dr. Willie Soon here. You'll hear about Matthew Wolecki and Dr. Judith Curry. These are all names when you start to familiarize yourself with this world and with this debate. You'll start hearing these names. The IPCC, you'll start hearing about that as well. All right. Michael E. Mann on trial. Dr. Michael Mann, formerly of Penn State, is the creator of the highly flawed temperature hockey stick model that purportedly shows unusual and unprecedented warming over the last 120 years. He then directly links increasing carbon dioxide to this 20th century warming. All right. And that's a picture. That's a picture of the hockey stick model right there. Okay, so it shows on the y-axis you have departures in temperature in degrees Celsius from the 1961 to 1990 average. You see, it's basically a straight line going across, and then in the probably the 1900s, it spikes up. Okay, so this is the data. This is the controversial data set that made him famous and that has sparked a lot of debate. All right. Man's reconstruction of historic temperatures eradicated the well-documented medieval warm period, AD 850 to 1250, and the disastrous cold of the Little Ice Age, AD 1250 to 1850. The hockey stick graph has been thoroughly debunked as using incorrect proxies, fabricated data, and questionable statistical methods. So let me see if I can go back. Let's see. 1850. So the warm period, 1250 to 1850. 850 to, okay. So I'm gonna try to distill this down for some of the viewers. Okay. So 850 to 1250. So historically, there have been warm periods, there have been glacial periods, and interglacial periods. So when the Earth warmed naturally and when it cooled naturally. So what they're saying here is that there, from 850 AD to 1250 AD, there was a warm period, okay, basically in this range, but this is showing a straight line, basically. In science, we would call this a straight line on average. So this is not showing the straight line, okay? And then from 1250 to 1850, so from here to here, there was a cooling period. And again, this is showing a straight line, which seems to be trending down, and then it spikes up. So what they're saying is this data set, this chart, is inconsistent with the historical record. All right. But it's meant to show, it's meant to create some sort of alarm that, oh my God, the temperatures increased in the last 100 years since man has been doing what man has been doing, since these technologies, since the industrial age, man has been causing the temperature to spike. All right. 12 years ago, a Serbic commentator, Mark Stein, called his work fraudulent and was reportedly sued by the professor for libel. The trial finally began last week. Carbon Dioxide Coalition member John Droz, you may remember that he single-handedly got the scientific method added to the North Carolina education standards in 2023, has published an important story here on the scientific method and the trial. It turns out that the judge rejected all but one of man's experts, ruling that they were inadmissible because they failed to prove that they had followed the scientific method. There are links there to those pieces. If you are a follower of the Carbon Dioxide Coalition's work, you are well aware of our promotion of the huge benefits of increasing atmospheric carbon dioxide to global increases in vegetation, parentheses, greening. This subtitle reads, Greening of Earth Continues Unabated. So what about the global drought? The most recent study documented that globally 55.15% of areas are greening at an accelerated rate, yet the authors had to bend the knee to the climate establishment by claiming that this was occurring despite increased drought since 2000. Is that the case? Is drought increasing? The facts say otherwise. So this goes back to, once again, being data driven. This is the power of data. Okay, with data, you can refute and even question what people are trying to tell you. Okay, so below is a summary of land-based weather stations worldwide showing a significant increase in precipitation, hardly what is expected if global droughts were increasing. Okay, so this data set basically shows, on the y-axis you have global precipitation anomaly. Okay, that language reads annual anomalies compared with average precipitation from 1901 to 2000 based on rainfall and snowfall measurements from land-based weather stations otherwise. Okay, so that trend line is showing if I'm reading that correctly, it's showing precipitation going up, while it was predicted that there would be more droughts. Okay. Vicente Serrano in 2022 reviewed global droughts from the Climatic Research Unit and Global Precipitation Climatology Center, covering the period from 1950 to 2020. They found that both data sets showed a significant decline in global drought. The graphs below identify the level of drought as mild in the green, moderate in the red, and severe in the dark red. So if you look at this, okay, the y-axis for both of those. So the top panel says Climatic Research Unit 12-month precipitation index. So precipitation index basically designates drought, okay, or droughts. Okay, so that top panel reads Climatic Research Unit 12-month precipitation index. The lower panel reads Global Precipitation Climatology Center 12-month precipitation index. So each of those, so for that top panel, you see negative 1.15% per decade. For moderate, you see negative 0.72% per decade. And then you see negative 0.41% per decade. So those are negative trends for droughts. So as opposed to more droughts, according to this data set, we're seeing less. For that lower panel basically shows the same trend over for global precipitation. All right. So that's a newsletter from them. If you guys, whoever watches this, if you visit their site, you can sign up for the newsletter to get updates on that. So now, for those of you who are watching, I'm at 15 minutes. I want to wrap this up. I'm going to end with a quiz from their site. And again, a disclaimer for those who would say Dr. Dunbar is in bed with the Carbon Dioxide Coalition. I don't know any of these people. I've never met any of these people. I saw Sharon Camp on the Tom Nelson podcast. I took a look. I thought it was interesting. And I thought it was worth sharing for my audience here. Okay. And for everyone, it's important to be informed as this is an election year. So let's go to, we'll do 4 questions from their quiz, and then I will wrap this up. Okay. For those of you watching, I have a small crowd here. You all should take a stab at this. I'll leave a few seconds. I'll ask the question. I'll leave a few seconds if you want to weigh in to see what you think. All right. So the polar bear population. Okay. So this one really pulls on the emotions of people. If you've ever seen a documentary on this, these can be real tear jerkers. All right. So this one reads, polar bear populations are in decline. Agree, disagree, unsure. Do we have any takers? Do I have any takers out there for this one? Polar bear populations are in decline. Do any of you agree, disagree, unsure? Does anyone want to take a stab at this? Anybody? Let me see where my likes are. Oh, I got a few likes for this one. People are hopping in and out. Any brave souls out there, do you want to take a stab at this one? There's no penalty for being wrong. Okay. Well, unsure. Last night when I did this, I clicked unsure. Okay. The answer, the polar bear population is growing in size. All right. This reads, in 1960, the estimated polar bear population was 10,000. That's plus or minus 5,000. The latest estimate is 39,000 of the creatures, the largest ever recorded. This is due to a combination of a hunting ban, but also due to an increase in the seal population. So we're going back to ecology. There's more food for them, so they're increasing in size, in numbers. The bear's primary food source. Let me read that again. This is due to a combination of a hunting ban, but also due to an increase in the seal population, the bear's primary food source. Less ice and more open water stimulates the growth of phytoplankton, which are the entire basis of the food chain in the Arctic Sea. If there is more phytoplankton, there will be more zooplankton that will feed on them. And if there is more phytoplankton, there will be more fish. If there are more fish, there will be more seals. And if there are more seals, there will be more polar bears. That's how the food chain works. And that's from Dr. Patrick Moore. And that's entitled Fake Invisible Catastrophes and Threats of Doom, pages 84 to 85. And you can click on the source there. Okay. I'm going to move to the next question. I'm going to do 4. Okay. On that same vein, for those out there watching, do you want to take a stab at this? So, the melting of Arctic sea ice is caused. The melting ice of Arctic sea ice is causing sea level rise. Okay, this is a very, very contentious issue, a contentious discussion. It's a very, very scary one because this means that New York City would eventually be underwater, Miami would be underwater, Los Angeles would eventually be underwater. All of our coastal cities and maybe some of the inward lands would be underwater eventually. The same thing with the Caribbean and many destinations today, maybe parts of Central America. Okay, so what's the answer? The melting of Arctic sea ice is causing sea level rise. Let's play it safe and click unsure. Okay. Melting of floating ice does not cause sea level rise. Again, people will fight you over this. Melting of floating ice does not cause sea level rise. There's an illustration. The melting of Arctic sea ice cannot cause sea levels to rise since the ice is floating on water. The only ice that can cause sea level to rise is ice melting on land. Try this experiment yourself with a glass, water, and a few ice cubes. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next question. Okay, another contentious discussion and a scary one because places like New York City and maybe here in Washington, D.C., maybe these locations will be underwater eventually. The rate of sea level rise is increasing. So let's play it safe and click unsure. Okay, this reads, sea level rise is not accelerating. So this graph says sea level rise at 6 of the world's largest cities, slow and steady. So you have Tokyo, Mumbai, India, Calcutta, Los Angeles, New York, and Buenos Aires. So I can't see. Okay, you can download this resource. So I'll probably download this afterwards so I could see those units on the y-axis. But this reads, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, third assessment report, stated no significant acceleration in the rate of sea level rise during the 20th century has been detected. So I will have to see what the date on that report said. The date on that report is. How recent was that? I'm going to read that again. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change Third Assessment Report stated no significant acceleration in the rate of sea level rise during the 20th century has been detected. So that was last century, and right now we're in the 21st century. Tide gauges all over the world measure the height of the seas where they can touch land. Long-term tide gauge records show a long, steady rise in relative sea levels over the entire length of their records, sometimes longer than 100 years, with no acceleration. NOAA places this rate of rise at about 1.7 to 1.9 millimeters per year, or the thickness of 2 US dimes stacked together. NOAA tides and currents. The absolute global sea level rise is believed to be 1.7 plus minus 0.3 millimeters per year during the 20th century. Okay, and there's the source right there at the bottom. The IPC Third Assessment Report, Chapter 11. Okay, so that was 2016. That was 8 years ago. So that's fairly recent. Okay, I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to wrap up. So the next question. Okay, so Antarctica is warming and melting. Once again, on the same vein, that would lead to the polar bears dying, and also cities like New York City and Calcutta and Buenos Aires eventually being underwater. So unsure. So this says most of Antarctica has cooled over the last 40 years. Recent study reveals a cooling trend dominates East Antarctica and West Antarctica, while a warming trend exists in the Antarctic Peninsula. None of that. Note that the regions of East and West Antarctica combined are vastly larger than the tiny Antarctic Peninsula. Bear in mind that Antarctica's average annual temperature ranges from about minus 10 degrees Celsius on the coast to minus 60 degrees Celsius at the highest parts of the interior. So it won't be melting anytime soon. And the source is an assessment of ERA 5 reanalysis for Antarctic near surface air temperature. So I don't know how many questions they have in this quiz, but for those watching this, you can go to their site and go over some more questions if you want. So these refute a lot of what we're taught and what we're told from the mainstream media. And many groups want the population to believe. And so what you have to do in science, you have to go find the data and read the data and analyze the data, which is the hard part because many people they don't understand data sets, and it would take time to understand some of the terminology being discussed. But it's important to go and find out for yourself what's going on. So I'm going to wrap this up. It's just over an hour, and there are some things I need to do, but I wanted to give a discussion on the Carbon Dioxide Coalition because until I watched the Tom Nelson podcast, I didn't know that such a thing existed. But even just in this brief skimming of their site, there are some interesting things there which go against a lot of what's being discussed outside in the mainstream media and in other places. Very, very fascinating. Who's telling the truth? Is the Carbon Dioxide Coalition telling the truth? Is MSNBC and Al Gore and those groups, are they telling the truth? Who's telling us the truth? Okay. But going back to the beginning, science is about understanding both sides and understanding multiple hypotheses. So I'm going to take us out with two drops. One is Al Gore, and the other one is Dr. Willie Soon. I've played these before, but I think these pretty much drive this home. So a word from Al Gore and then a word from Dr. Willie Soon.
We're still putting 162 million tons into it every single day, and the accumulated amount is now trapping as much extra heat as would be released by 600,000 Hiroshima-class atomic bombs exploding every single day on the Earth. That's what's boiling the oceans, creating these atmospheric rivers and the rain bombs, and sucking the moisture out of the land. And
so basically, the world is burning, the oceans are boiling. Those are points that Al has tried to drive home to us. And then Dr. Willie Soon, I'll play two of these. This was a funny one. Well, they're all kind of funny. But I pulled these out of a larger talk. So there's the talk I pulled these from. Willie Soon presents a lot of data. Dr. Willie Soon.
Every time you say, can we have a little debate? I don't understand your facts. Can you explain to me? They just say, no, no, no. Al Gore says so.
No, no, no. Al Gore says so. I'll play this last one.
It turns out that this climate is among the most misunderstood subject because Al Gore, the average D student, thinks that he understands climate. My God, it's as sure as gravity. He always say that. You guys are just denier, right?
Art Newstall, thank you for stopping through. I am just wrapping up. You might find this playback interesting, being in the education sector yourself. So, all right, everyone, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you for those of you who hung out and watched. Thank you for those of you who clicked the like button and gave this a like. This is as a Black scientist myself, I think it's important for me to promote awareness within my tribe, and a lot of people, we don't have a feel for this in my community, and we tend to, especially around election time, when the politicians come soliciting our votes, they come with certain messages, and it's important to understand what they're talking about so you can question what they're talking about and just determine for yourself if what they're saying is factual or not. And also think about why they're presenting what they're presenting. Why are they hurting us? Why are they hurting us in specific directions? What outcomes are they looking to achieve? So those are very, very important questions. Everyone, this is Big Discussion 76, Science and Technology. My name is Dr. Anwar Yusuf Dunbar. If you're watching on the playback and you want to make a donation to the channel, my Cash App and PayPal are below in the description box. You can't leave a super thanks here because there's no AdSense here. But please consider signing up for my newsletter. There is like the Carbon Dioxide Coalition, there is a newsletter for my operation. Thank you to everyone who has recently signed up. This link is below in the description box. I use it to, I create a lot of content, and it's a consolidated way to give me some more practice writing, and also to highlight certain of my writings and videos. So please consider signing up. There's a 2-paragraph greeting there, and then you hit the subscribe button there, and it takes you to that window, and you enter in your email address, and you are a part of the group. So please consider signing up. I'm going to show two more things before I wrap this stream up. And I thought about this with my background in inhalation toxicology. The concern is the mass amounts of carbon dioxide that are going up in the atmosphere from our vehicles, our automobiles, our trains, our airplanes. But where does it go? I asked this question. Some people feel like when the carbon dioxide goes up in the atmosphere, it just stays there and it traps heat. But is it going somewhere else? So we know that it's plant food. These are stomata. These are how plants breathe. Okay, so these are how plants take in carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is plant food, and so if there's carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and there are green photosynthetic plants around, they're taking it up. But also, based upon Henry's law, we're going to do some chemistry now. Going to be very brief. We know that gases dissolve in liquids. All right. And so if you know that, then you have to ask the question, if there's carbon dioxide in the air, is at least some of it going down into our bodies of water? Is it just staying there, or is it going down into our bodies of water? So for Henry's law, we know that that's dependent upon pressure, and it's also dependent upon the solubility of the gas. Okay. And so I've covered this, I think around this time last year. This planet, our planet Earth, is 70% water. So it's mostly covered with water. Okay. The land bodies are only 30% of the surface. So that's a lot of surface area. If the Earth is 70%, the surface is 70% water. So if you look at the data, the data does in fact show that there is carbon dioxide, and there are other gases dissolved in the oceans. Okay, so this says gases in air dissolved in seawater at equilibrium with air. So the percentage of gases in seawater is based on the total gases dissolved in seawater at equilibrium with air. So there you have nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide, neon, helium, methane, krypton, carbon monoxide, nitrous oxide, and xenon. So if you look there, this is another important question to ask. Has the percentage, and I haven't been able to find this number, has the percentage of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, has it increased from this 0.03%? Has that number increased? Has it gone up in order of magnitude? Has it gone up several orders of magnitude? So has it gone up from 0.03 to 0.3 or 3? If that happens, yeah, then it's, kind of scary. Then you may have a problem. But if it's still at 0.03, then the question is, okay, if we're dumping so much in the air and it's still at 0.3, that means that it's going somewhere. Something's consuming it. Now, if you look at the ocean or the seas, you can see there that it's 40-fold more than in the atmosphere. So when you see at equilibrium, so it's 1.4% in the seas. So when you see at equilibrium, that means that the water, the atmosphere, the carbon dioxide, all those gases, they're dissolving in the sea and they're coming out. They're going in and out, and then they're reaching a balance, which is driven by something like temperature and which is driven by pressure, temperature, and solubility. Okay, so I don't think, regardless of how many cars are out on the road, I don't think it's just going up and sitting there. It's moving. It's being taken up by plants, and some of it has to be going into our bodies of water as well. All right. I just wanted to say that. Okay, one more. And then I promise I'll wrap up. I pulled this from Dr. Willie Soon's talk. the components of climate. This is for everybody's general knowledge. So he makes the argument in that talk that what is climate? What area of expertise is required to master it? An understanding of climate requires an amalgamation of astronomy, solar physics, geology, geochronology, geochemistry, sedimentology, tectonics, paleontology, paleoecology, glaciology, climatology, meteorology, oceanography, ecology, archaeology, and history. All right, that last part, that's why you have to understand the historical record, and you have to have a command of several disciplines to understand the complex topic that is climate. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Everybody, thank you for those of you who watched. Thank you to those of you who hit the like button, and those of you who said something in the chat. And yes, thank you. So I will talk to you the next time. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. And let me know if you have any questions or comments on any of this if you watched this on the playback. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.